Short break with your host. I'm live now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be where you are out there. My name is Jeff Fritz. I'm a Microsoft Senior Program Manager. I am a Twitch partner. I am the founder of these live coders. You can find me all over the interwebs, whether it's YouTube, it's Twitch, GitHub, the Twitters. You can find me at C#Fritz. It's so good to see all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you joining us for Live Coders Conference 2. And I want to take a few minutes here and talk to you about something that I've been learning about over the last year, something that I'm excited about, and that's WebAssembly and the ability for us to write some code that runs natively inside our browser. So I'm going to share with you a little talk called Native Code, WebAssembly, and C#. Let's build with Blazor. All right. Now, let's talk about what is this WebAssembly thing. That's right. The squirrel is gone. No more squirrel. We had the squirrel here for the pre-show, and we're back to normal Jeff here for the rest of the day today. Now, let's talk about WebAssembly. Let's learn a little bit more about what this thing is. What is WebAssembly? You may have heard something about this. Well, WebAssembly, abbreviated WASM, okay, is a binary instruction format for a stack-based virtual machine. It's designed as a portable compilation target for programming languages, enabling deployment on the web for both client and server applications. And that's the definition from you can't see it there behind my noggin here, but that's the definition from webassembly.org. Let me put up, I can show you the full screen there. There you go, from webassembly.org. Now, what does that mean? This means that we can actually take our programming languages that we know and love, and if they compile down to binary format, and most of them do, some sort of executable application, you can use them then to retarget and push things into WebAssembly, and they'll run inside the browser. Well, wait a sec, Jeff, why would I choose to use that? Well, let me tell you. WebAssembly has a couple of different benefits. It's efficient and fast. Okay? There we go. The WASM stack, it's designed to be encoded in a size and load time efficient binary format. That means you're going to be able to, once you get those files downloaded, those binaries downloaded onto your machine, you're going to be able to have your clients, your visitors to your website, have a fast experience that they can interact with your application. It's safe. It runs in that same memory-safe sandboxed execution environment, enforcing those same origin and permission policies the browser uses, just like with the JavaScript VM. So everything that you could do with JavaScript interacting with the browser, you can do with WebAssembly. It integrates with all the features you already know. Interact with JavaScript context, browser functionality. Use the same web APIs that are accessible from JavaScript with WebAssembly. And it's part of the open web platform. Well, wait a sec. What does that mean? Well, that means WebAssembly is designed to maintain the versionless, feature-tested, and backwards compatible, that should be nature of the web. Somebody didn't proofread his lines here. What is that? So this means that if you build something that targets WebAssembly, it's going to work in the browser. And because of how it's a standard, you're going to be able to use it for years to come. Now, wait a sec, Jeff, I'm running browser XYZ. Surely this isn't supported over there. And a Microsoft person talking about open web platform? Surely you jest. No, listen. Do you remember Spectre and Meltdown? Do you remember these two things? These were vulnerabilities in modern processors, CPUs, that allowed programs to steal data as it was being processed, right? This was a mess. This was back in 2017 that these were discovered. And JavaScript running in the browser could activate and trigger these exploits. There were samples out there where you could run some code from a web page and it would steal things out of your PC, or they would trigger. There was one sample where it would start solitaire on a Windows machine from the browser, and that's not good. We don't want to see that. So in 2017, all the operating system vendors, all of the browser vendors, they patched it across the board. But that also means if you installed the patch, and I sure hope you installed that patch, you now have a modern browser that supports WASM. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so this, in all browsers and all operating systems, this isn't saying, oh yeah, all versions of Windows 10 now support this. No. If you're running Linux, if you're running Mac OS, if you're running Opera, if you're running Safari, Microsoft Edge, the other Microsoft Edge, if you're running Firefox, of course, if you're running Chrome, it automatically updates. We've got modern updating browsers. Well, you've already got these. And if you've already got support for WASM, and it also runs on phones. Check this out. I don't have anything against solitaire there, Kevin Evans in the chat room. I see that. Ha ha! No, we don't have anything against solitaire. We just don't want folks to be able to launch applications from JavaScript in our browser. Well, WebAssembly and WASM, why would you choose that over JavaScript? Well, check this out. JavaScript, well, WebAssembly can actually be natively decoded much, much faster than JavaScript and can be parsed. In experiments, they show it can actually be parsed 20 times faster. WebAssembly can be targeted by many, many different programming languages and frameworks. That means that all developers can write code to target, and it can write code to target the browser to run and do all kinds of great things with their favorite programming languages. No longer is it the domain of just JavaScript to be able to execute in the browser. So check this out. There are so many awesome WebAssembly languages that you can use, and I just put together a list of a bunch of these from the awesome WASM Langs repository here. Let me put that up so you can see all of these. Look at this. Whether it's .NET with C# and F#, D, PHP, Poetry, Kotlin. You can use Kotlin to target WebAssembly. C++, Go. Of course you could use Rust. Perl. Why would you can use Perl to compile to WebAssembly. There are support built in all of these languages so you can target WebAssembly. Now, WebAssembly is just the tip of the iceberg, right? Programming with these languages is going to get you started. But Jeff, what can I really do with these things? Building, I mean, okay, all right, C and C++ are up there. I'm a .NET guy. I can use .NET with that. Of course, I could use Java. So our enterprise developers that prefer C#, F#, Java, they can program for this. What are some of the cool things that you can do with WebAssembly? Well, at the awesome WASM link, you see the link there. Let me copy that into the chat room for you. You know what? I can't copy it. And I jumped ahead of a slide. Don't jump ahead of a slide. That's a bad idea. There we go. That slide, that's where I want to be. Let me show you some quick samples here that are really cool that we can do with WebAssembly. So I'm going to jump out here, head over to my browser, and I use Firefox. Here's my awesome WASM repository. Let me bring up that set of links that I have for you here. I'm going to just bump PowerPoint to the side. I've got too many screens here, friends. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, let me show you this first demo. This is, I'm going to compare WebAssembly to JavaScript directly. And why didn't that go directly to where I wanted? Oh, I know why. There we go. We'll go to that location. So this is a sample that has dancing skeletons. And that looks pretty smooth. This is using JavaScript, and there's 8 of them running. And I can click over here and see it's running at 20, 25 frames a second. And I can crank up the number of these skeletons. Right, let's go 42. We like 42 skeletons. And you see my frames per second is down to 7 up here in the corner. If I change that from JavaScript to WebAssembly, everything's smooth. And you can see up here, I'm running at 35, 40 frames a second, and they're all dancing. And you can see the performance improvement in running as WebAssembly instead of just JavaScript. Not saying that you can't run as JavaScript, but 3D rendering like this and painting in the browser gets a little bit better when you use WebAssembly. Our friends at Uno platform, they put together a demo, open sourced Windows calculator app. They just ported it over to WebAssembly, and it runs in the browser, and it looks exactly the same as the Windows calculator. They're able to port it over because it's just more WebAssembly code. It was C++ code. They converted it, and it's running here, and you can learn more about Uno platform and how they converted the calculator right there. Now, okay, that's fine and dandy, but Jeff, come on. Show us the real stuff here. Let's really push this. Let's do something that's a little bit further out there. Well, what about the open source demo for Doom 3? That's a thing. And we can run Doom 3 in the browser. Here's the link. I'm going to share that link in chat for you. There it is. And this is running the Doom 3 game live in the browser. Now, I downloaded this ahead of time so that we could see it actually out here. But I can click in and I can start playing the game. Doom in the browser with WebAssembly. Now, it's got a couple hundred meg. It has to download for the maps and the statics and things. I've already downloaded it. It's already sitting here on my machine, sitting in application cache, and you can play Doom. It's slow frames per second because I'm also running OBS here in the background. But it's Doom in the browser. Now, okay. That's nice. That's Doom in the browser. Maybe you're maybe a little bit older school gamer. What about Diablo? Did you ever play Diablo? Diablo 1 was shareware, and you could get through the first little bit of the game, right? A little bit in the first episode, and Blizzard Entertainment made that available. Well, they've downloaded and recompiled it, and it runs on top of WebAssembly Diablo. I'll drop that link in the chat room also so that you can can check that out in your browser. This will run. I ran this on my iPhone, okay? And I mean, here, I'll even prove it to you. Look, I even created a hero, Fritz. There he is. I didn't actually go too far in the game, but you can click around Old Tristram and play the old game from the 90s right there in your browser. That's WebAssembly. All right, so much that you can do with this. There's even there are tons of examples of things that you can do with WebAssembly right here on the GitHub site. Make sure you check that out. There's a link for that as well. Let me go back to the slides here, and let's talk about Blazor. So you're used to building and seeing things built with Microsoft.NET. They run out on somebody's server. We call it ASP.NET. It runs maybe in a cloud that's colored blue. And you're able to do some cool things with that. And there goes my screen's all over the place. Pardon me. There we go. And it would send data. When you built with .NET on the server, you would send rendered HTML down to the browser, and you might interact with it using one of these JavaScript frameworks, whether it's Angular, React, or Vue, so you have a little bit of native, cool look and feel inside the browser. Well, what if we can compile that .NET code and run it in the browser, but we're going to do it with WebAssembly, and we'll do it with a technology that we call Blazor. And Blazor, quite simply, lets you build client-side web user interface with .NET instead of JavaScript. Particularly, you're going to be able to use C# and Razor to write reusable web user interface components. Now, that also means you can share .NET code with both the client and the server, just like you're used to doing in Node with JavaScript. If you need to get into some of those browser APIs, there's a great interactive bridge that you can use to jump from your .NET code into JavaScript and execute some of those APIs. You can go the other way also, and you can call from JavaScript back into your .NET code and execute some of those great business logic, interact with your domain objects that are living inside of WebAssembly running in the browser. Now, some folks are a little bit uncomfortable sending all their code down to the browser to run over there. That's okay. We actually have Blazor capable of running on the client or the server. So when it runs in the browser, we call it Blazor WebAssembly. It runs as a series of what we call Razor components on top of a .NET runtime that sits on top of WebAssembly. And those things will interact with the DOM, the document object model, inside the browser. Now, if you want to run on the server, you can use those exact same Razor components with .NET and target ASP.NET Core, compile and run all of those items there on the server, and send just the changes back and forth to the browser. This way, you can have some of that validated technology running in a secure location on the server. Nobody can touch it. It's your choice. These are two technologies that are available. Blazor Server was available in .NET Core 3.0. Blazor WebAssembly was just released this May, and it works with .NET Core 3.1. And there's advantages to both. If you choose to use Blazor WebAssembly, it's great with offline support and progressive web apps. There's zero latency in the user interface, and it works amazingly well with static site hosting. If you want to run Blazor on the server, that's great too. You're going to end up with a very thin client. You're going to be able to also run with a full runtime on the server and have it in that secured, protected environment out there on your cloud environment, on your server that you can work with. All right. Let's talk about how you get started with Blazor. Okay? Now, just go to blazor.net. Download and install that .NET 3.1 SDK for Windows, Mac, or Linux. And two commands will get you started. .NET New, Blazor WASM, and .NET Run. That's all you have to do. Let me show you. I'm going to drop over here to my command line. Let me head over here and bring up my Windows terminal. I'm going to clear out all the stuff there. This is the Blazing Pizza server. I'm going to jump out of here and let's create a new, it was Blazor WASM application, and I'm going to write it into LCC demo 1. It should be .NET New Blazor WASM, right? We need to actually give it the new command. And it's going to write this out, and we're going to be able to interact. There it is. It's going to restore all my packages that I need. And if I go into LCC demo 1, I can execute .NET Run here, and it's going to compile all that simple code that I have written in C#, written with Razor templates, and be able to see it in my browser in just a second there. Here it is. It's at localhost 5001, where all good websites start. I'm going to come back over here to my browser, paste that in, and it's loading and running. Very simple boilerplate application with some Bootstrap markup right here in the browser. I've got a little counter I can click, and it's executing C# to increment this. I've got a sample where I can click, and it will fetch data and put it into a table for me. Real easy stuff to get started with. We've got a fantastic workshop available for you out there that you can check out. If I go back to that previous folder that I was in, let me just go back to here and .NET Run this one. This is the Blazing Pizza demo. We have a workshop available. You can also check it out over on my YouTube channel. And that's right, Microsoft development at the command line. Who knew? Who knew there would be Microsoft development at the command line? I'm going to go back and hard refresh my application here. And I'm in the Blazing Pizza demo. This is all WebAssembly generated with a little bit of C# painted in your browser, and this demo lets you order all kinds of different pizzas and have them delivered to you. Real simple demo, very similar to what you might what you might have for one of your enterprise applications. I like some chicken, some buffalo chicken, some extra cheese, and of course, I want my pizza served on a silver platter. Place the order, and it's available there for me at £268. Are you kidding? I want you to check out more about Blazor. I want you to learn more all about the great things that are available for Blazor. Get started with this. WebAssembly is a fantastic technology. Let me get back into the slides so you know just a little bit more about where you can get more information. All right. Make sure you learn about the WebAssembly specification at webassembly.org. The awesome WebAssembly list. I posted the link in the chat room. It's at github.com. Mbasso awesome-wasm. Get your copy of Blazor. Get started. Give it a try at blazor.net. And there's a list of awesome Blazor resources, some that are written by some of the Live Coders team at github.com/AdrianTorres/awesomeblazor. My name is Jeff Fritz. I am so happy that you could join us for the Live Coders Conf today. I hope you stick around. There's tremendous amount of content all day long. But I think for now, we want to send it back over to Layla, who's going to talk about our next session. Back to you, Layla.